Hello everybody and welcome back to Project Soulrocker. This week I'll be giving advice on how to plan for a long-term project like this. And the best thing to do for a long-term project like this is to plan. So as you can see here, I'm using Lucidchart to just create what's called a UML diagram. And you know, I'm not like an expert at UML diagrams or anything, so I don't know, like, I'm probably not doing everything perfectly or like to standard or whatever, but basically what a UML diagram is just planning your code. It's planning all the classes, what's inheriting from what's this class going to have, what data is it going to have, what functions is it going to have, what are these functions going to do. And as you can see here on the screen, I just created the card class, and now there's all these other cards that's going to be inheriting from it. There's the heal card, the attack card, all this stuff, and the card class has, you know, the name, the type, all this stuff that those other cards that are inheriting from it are going to get. And the base card class is inheriting from a scriptable object in Unity. So the card part is pretty easy because it's basically exactly what I did for the game jam. It's just had this scriptable object card that all these other cards inherited from it. I'm probably going to have to go a lot deeper later on when I add more complex cards. But for now, this is good enough. You can see here I'm adding like card game manager, a deck. I know I need all these things, but I only like kind of half finish all of them because as I'm making them, like, oh wait, I need something else that this is going to have access to, another class that's going to manage something else. For the player, I needed the player hand and health and strength. And all that stuff is going to be stored within the player so that nothing is tangled up. So the player holds all the data it needs and no one else needs to know about it. They can just interact through that stuff with the player. So doing this sort of thing is great because you're really thinking about how you can neatly organize your code base so that it doesn't get messy or tangled up. Because, you know, during a game jam, as some of you may know, you need to code fast and try to get that done as quickly as possible. So things get messy, everything knows about everything else. But on long-term projects, you need to think everything through so that everything is streamlined and, you know, it's more optimized. Because you need to convince yourself through this that certain things need access to, you know, other classes, other objects. The game jam version of the game, Card Game Manager, had access to the hand, it had access to a bunch of things it didn't need access to. But now doing this, I realized, oh, the player will have access to all the stuff that only the player needs to know about and will manage that stuff. Then Card Game Manager is going to just interact with the player and manage the game and the game loop through that. And you can see here I start thinking about the single player, which I probably won't get to very soon, but it's, you know, it's still a good thing to think about. I have the scene manager. I know the scene manager is going to need to talk with the card game manager because if a scene ends, now we need a card game to begin. So they need to talk with each other, and when the card game ends, it needs to start another scene. But a scene manager, it needs scenes, which are also going to be scriptable objects so that we can easily create more and more and just easily iterate on them on the fly and add more or take away some. And nothing else is going to interact with scene except scene manager, because scene manager is the only thing that needs to. It's managing all that. Nothing else needs to touch scene. And I also have this scene import tool, which, you know, there's not a lot there right now. It just says file, because basically the plan is I want all scenes to be basically written or planned out in a CSV file, which is comma separated values. It's what Google Sheets and stuff uses. So like the first column will be like what image is going to, what sprite's going to show, then it's like what dialogue, who's saying it, stuff like that. So I want this scene import tool to take that file, then import it and create a scene object on the fly based on that CSV. And then that'll, you know, I'll add all those scenes that it creates to the scene manager and so on. And here I'm also adding just an AI, which obviously, again, not a lot planned for it right now, but I know it's going to use utility AI. but I'll get to that when I get there. So I've just written all these stub-ins in code for the game based on the UML diagram, and this is going to help a lot when moving forward with the game, because even though all these functions are empty and, you know, the game doesn't do anything, it's nothing. This is all just blank code. This, along with the UML diagram, has helped me plan out the game a whole lot. And you can see here I've commented everything, every single function. I have a reason right above it, or the function of the function, what the function actually does. And this is great. It's great to do this, because if you can't come up with a reason why you have this function, then do you really need it? For example, in Card Game Manager, I had this activate card from player hand function in the UML diagram. And while I was writing this, I was thinking, okay, do I really need this? I know in hand I have this use random card, which makes sense. It gets a random number for the amount of cards you have in your hand and chooses that one and returns it. But I needed something to actually call that function to use it, and player doesn't do that. So I was like, okay, so then yes, we need Card Game Manager. Player has a get hand function, so Card Game Manager, which holds all the players, will call get hand from the current active player based on the player turn, and then it will call that draw or use random card function in the player hand. So it just confirms for me that this function is useful and it's going to be needed for the game. So you could see here that I've the base card class, which inherits from scriptable object. It's an abstract class, so that means that basically it's not going to be used for anything really. It's just going to be, it's there to inherit all this data from. And I have this abstract void activate function that's going to be overridden by all the other classes that inherit from this. So this, I just made it abstract because we're never going to have a base card object. So we're never going to use the base card activate at all. And it has all of the card data it needs. And then here's, you know, attack card, which inherits from card. And we have this create asset menu thing up here that it makes it so that we can create one of these in the asset menu or in our asset folder just by right-clicking, going to create, and then we just have this card drop down that goes to attack card that we can create. And you can see here it's overriding activate. Right now there's just, you know, it throws a nothing was implemented because nothing was, and so on. You can see here that character is super barren. There's going to be a lot more that I need to think about when it comes to character, but I won't get there just yet, like how special abilities will even work. I know how I want them to work in game, but how they will function in the game loop, I'm going to need to think a little bit more about that. Maybe it deserves its own UML diagram, but I'm not there just yet. Character holds all its things. I was showing player before. It you know, holds its health, strength, the character it is. You can see here, I think especially in player, that the UML diagram has helped so much with untangling all the code and decoupling it, so that, you know, Card Game Manager doesn't need to know about, it doesn't need the hand, it doesn't need the health, it doesn't need all this. Player is the only thing that needs to know about its hand, its health, its strength, and its character. Card Game Manager is just managing whose turn it is and drawing the cards from the deck. Card Game Manager is the only thing that knows about a deck. And this, you know, draw cards for the round. When you click on the card, it'll go to the hand. And then the player itself manages all its own things. Nothing else needs to know about health, strength, character, hand, or anything. So yeah, as you can see, despite, you know, the game not doing anything yet, I already have so much here that's going to help me continue with the game, move forward a lot at a faster rate, and it's going to be much neater. You can already see with the decoupling, with all the commenting, that everything was planned out so that it won't get too messy. So anyway, that's pretty much it with this. You may have noticed that I didn't do anything with like the scene manager and the scene stuff and the AI stuff. That's not stuff I'm going to worry about for quite a while. I want to get the base card game stuff working, and then eventually when I get down to, I get past that, I can start working on the single player stuff that'll need all that. So in the next video, I don't plan to do any more coding. I'm going to take a step back and start designing or redesigning the UI and UX of the card game screen.